All right, welcome back. Next, we're talking about a new component called the card. Cards are great components. They're really useful for just displaying information, content on your web page. There's a lot of different use cases for them, and there's a lot to talk about. So that's why this section is mainly about cards for a couple videos, plus that one video we just had about list groups. So the official description, first you can find it under card on components. Bootstrap cards provide a flexible and extensible content container with multiple variants and options. So they're used to display a lot of content, and it can really vary what your content is and what you can put in there. So I'll just give you a quick tour. You can do things like this, where you have an image and then some sort of heading, text, a button, but you can also do things like lists inside of there, stack them together. You might recognize this list group. We can do a header, or a header and a footer. We can do, keep going down here, images. Well, we can do navigation inside of them. We can do images that are actually overlays like this, different colors, of course, and outlines. And we've also got different layout options that we'll talk about later. So there's a ton you can do with these, and the content that you display can really vary a lot. So we're going to start with the most basic card, which if we come up here, looks something like this. So we're going to have a separate video on images, so I'm skipping that. So the basic things you do, you make a card with the class equal to card. And then inside of it, we put a card body. And we've also got things like card title and subtitle, but we're going to start with just the basics with card-body. So I have a new file here called cards basics. Let me change this to be cards basics and open this up with live server. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is make our container in here, and then we could just right away make a card with card-body, both divs. You don't have to use divs, but that's what the docs use and what you'll see most often. And then in here, I could just put some text for our simplest ever card. Now it does go all the way across the container, and so we could definitely restrict it using the grid system. If I just copy this or cut it out, let's do a really simple one where we have a row. And then if I want it to take up, let's say it takes up the middle 6. So I could do column 6, and on its own, column 6 is going to just be the left 6, the left half. But if I want to center it, I have 3 units of space, or 6 units of space left for 12. So then I can split up 3 and 3. So I'm going to use an offset class. I haven't really done that very often. So I'll do offset by 3. And there we go. So now we have 3, 6, and 3. All right, so here's our simple card with nothing really in it. But then if we come down, we can add in a title and a subtitle. So we can do an H5, doesn't have to be an H5 and an H6. You can do whatever text you want and give it card-title and card-subtitle. So let's try that now. Let's do inside the card body, we'll do an we'll just stick with what they do, an H5 with the class of card-title. And then we'll say some title and save. And there's our title. And then we can come down and do a subtitle. Sure, why not? An H6 with the class of card-subtitle. And we'll also do text-muted. It's not gray by default. And we'll just say some subtitle. Okay, so you can see it's a little cramped in there, which is why they went ahead and added margin bottom 2 to their H6. So we don't have to do that, but if you prefer, we do margin bottom 2, save, and we get a little more space. Okay, we can also do card links. If I come down in the body and do a-card link, I'll just say first link, lunk, oh my gosh, and then a second one for the second link, save. Now this was accidental, I left something off, but if we compare what we have here, our links are not on their own line, and that's the default behavior for any links. So if we look at, oh gosh, I lost my place here. What they have in their example is that the links are on a separate line. And what's happening here is that they're wrapping their text with the class of card text and putting it in a paragraph. Mine is just on its own. So if I do that, paragraph with the class of card-text and indent it properly, put that in there. Now it just adds some space around this text so that these two links are forced to be on their own line. All right, so that's our most basic card. Like I said, I'm going to do something with images as a separate video. So let's also make a second card, and this card will have a list group as its main content. So I'm going to duplicate everything here, or at least the grid, so that I can just have a second column. All right, that looks good to me. And I'm going to delete my entire card. So we'll start with div class equals card, but then inside of there, I'm going to just add a list group. So that's a ul.list group, which we talked about. And if we want, we can do list group flush. And that's sort of the standard thing to do in a card, because the card gives you the stylings of the what do you call it? The header if you want it, the border. So most people do flush. And I think, yeah, you're actually supposed to. Creates listed content in a card with a flush list group. Okay, then inside of there, we do li with our same stuff that we've done before. List group item. Just do this a couple times. First thing, I'll just do all first things. And we save. And here we go. Of course, we could add a little bit of padding or margin. Let's do margin top 2. Okay, good enough. Maybe I'll change that. I changed it to 4. All right, so this is now a card, and we can also give it a header. So to give it a header, we can use div with a class equal to card header. So that's different than card title, by the way. It's a header. So let's do dot card header, and we'll just say card header. And it gives us this highlight around it, sort of the light gray background color. We'll also can do a footer, which I'm getting ahead of myself now. It's later down in the docs, but we can do that here outside the list group. Just do dot card footer as our text, and save. And we get our header and our footer, the same sort of effect. Okay, so that's list groups. Now here's an example they call the kitchen sink, where they're adding an image, which we're not going to do, but they have a lot of different pieces of content. So the card title, there's no subtitle, card text, a list group, and then links. So we could do that without the image. And instead of doing it on a separate line, why don't we just split this in half? So I'm going to get rid of the offset, and then we can just duplicate this column. So right now we'll have 2 of them. But I'm going to change this. I'm going to get rid of the header. And first, I'm going to do we need a card body. And in that card body, I'm going to do, let's just copy what we had from above, where we have the H5 and H6 and our card text. So that needs to go inside of a card body. There we go. And then we have our list group below. First thing, let's do second thing and third thing. Perfect. And if we want to add links like this, we can actually add a second card body. So I'm going to, before that footer, do a second card body. And then I'm going to do a first link that just says some link. And then a second one that says another link. Now I forgot to do the class equals card link. And now we have this massive card. It doesn't look great with the footer, to be honest, and the links like this, but I want to show you that you can do multiple card bodies. So if I wanted to, I could even put more card text in here and make this massive monstrosity of a card, but I won't do that. I guess that's why they call this the kitchen sink anyway. All right, so that's most of the basics for cards. The only other thing we really have to talk about before we get to images, so we did header, we talked about footer. You know, you can put other things in the header like an H5. You can do quotes, for example, like they have here, where you do a header, you put the word quote in there if you want, and then you can just put block quotes inside of your card body. So you can put all sorts of content, list groups, block quotes, whatever you want, buttons, as you can see here. We'll talk about controlling the size. We've already done that over here with our columns. We've got text alignment. That's one thing we haven't discussed. You just give your card a class of text center or text right. This is not unique to cards. We've seen that before. And then further down, we've got our colors. So all of the same colors are available to us. Let's make a grid of 3 cards across just to try out a couple different colors. All right, so to make one of these cards, if I want 3 of them going across, so I'm going to make a row. I'm going to have column, and we can just start with column 4, just make them always take up all the space, and then or make them always take up a third. And then inside of here, we make our card, and then we have our card header right there, and the text looks like it just says header. Then we have our card body, which inside we have a title. So we'll do our, maybe an H5 card title. Just put the text card title, and then we have our card text. And that should be a paragraph. And then in there, let's just do lorem, I don't know, 20, and save. Okay, so first of all, it's a little cramped. We can fix that later. But if we want to talk about colors, all we have to do is come in with BG secondary, BG success, and then the color of the text that we want. So let's start with success. So on the card, we do BG success. And everything changes. The header changes. We can do text white, of course. If I can spell white. There we go. And expand this full size. Okay, looks okay enough. So let's duplicate this a couple times. Perfect. So let's make one info and then make another one danger. There we go. We've got 3 cards going across. Now, as far as making them responsive, this is not great, right? That's terrible. So I would change this definitely to be medium, have them expand, maybe even large. Let's see. So they're on their own lines. Yeah, we can worry about margin. Yeah, I think I would do large, honestly, but that's not what this is about. We're just talking about the basics, but now they expand. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, the last thing around colors is that aside from all the available colors, which I'm not going into, you can also do outline. And to do that, all you have to do is actually give it just a border color. There's not a special class, so you do border color, and then you can change the text color as well. So for example, you could do border danger, and then text danger on the card body. So just to show you those, if we duplicate, oh gosh, all of our content here again inside this row once. Let's do this first one. Instead of background success, we'll do border. What color have we not done? We haven't done primary. So border primary, and in the card body, we give text primary. And if we expand it, and our header, we also need to change the color of that because I'm doing text white still. We don't want that. There we go. So we should add margin, make this nicer. I'm going to just quickly go in there and do that. Okay, so I just went in and made this one border primary, text primary, border warning, text warning, and border secondary, text secondary. And I gave them all, each card, margin bottom 3, just to make it a little nicer. It's still, honestly, this isn't great right here. I'd probably split them up to be 6 and 6. So we could actually do that pretty easily. If we wanted to, just come up. You can just switch this off at this point if you don't care about the grid. Come in here, and then I would just say column medium 6. And so now we end up at extra small, they're all the way across, small, they're all the way across, medium, 50% of the way each, and then 33.333% here once we get to extra large and large. And that works well enough. This is still maybe kind of awkwardly sized right here, but otherwise I think it looks good enough. So those are cards. There's a lot to talk about there, and we're not done. But the key takeaways, other than color, which there's nothing card specific to this color. This is just the existing color utilities we've seen. We talked about the class card, the class card body, card title. We talked about subtitles, card text, card links. Then we saw how you could put whatever you want, like a list group inside of there or a block quote. Okay, next up, we're talking about images.